From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang in Review. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is asking local government units or LGUs to stop charging pass-through fees on trucks carrying rice, vegetables, and other essential goods. President Marcos said these extra charges only make food more expensive, something Filipinos can't afford right now with global oil prices rising. In a video message, the president said he's been told that some villages are still collecting fees per sack of rice or per vehicle. President Marcos appealed to local officials to put a stop to it, reminding them that every added cost eventually hits consumers.
Nananawagan ako sa ating mga local government unit na siguruhin wala ng pass-through fee na sisingilin. Nakarating sa akin na may ilang pang mga barangay na naniningil pa rito sa bawat sako ng palay at sasakyan. Sana matigil na ninyo po ito dahil ang epekto lamang nito ay pinapagmahal ang presyo ng ating mga bilihin.
The impact of high fuel prices, the government is rolling out several support programs. Public utility vehicles or PUV drivers in Metro Manila started receiving a 5,000 peso fuel subsidy on Tuesday, with other regions to follow. Farmers and fisherfolk will also get fuel assistance. Airlines will get some relief too, as Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines or CAAP reduces aviation-related charges to help lower operating costs. President Marcos also ordered all government agencies to review their licensing and permitting rules and identify which fees can be suspended or reduced to lighten the load on businesses and the public. The chief executive encouraged commuters to take advantage of the free Love Bus rides available in Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao. President Marcos Jr. ended his message by calling for unity, saying the country needs everyone working together as global tensions, especially in the Middle East, continue to disrupt oil markets and push prices up.
Ipapamahagi ng DSWD ang 5,000 pesos na cash relief assistance sa 139,000 na tricycle drivers sa 17 LGU sa Metro Manila. At isusunod na ng DSWD ang pamamahagi sa mga tricycle driver naman sa labas ng Metro Manila. Sa mga susunod na araw, ang mga jeepney at TNVS driver ay makakatanggap naman ng 5,000 pesos na cash relief assistance. At sa huling linggo ng Marso, ilalabas na ng DOTR ang fuel subsidy. Tuloy-tuloy din ang pagpapatupad ng Love Bus program. Makakatulong po ito para makatipid sa pamasahe at gasolina ng taong bayan. Kaya't gamitin po ninyo ang libreng sakay sa Metro Cebu, Metro Davao at Metro Manila. Pangalawa, kailangan matiyak na may sapat na supply ng pagkain. Upang matulungan ang mga magsasaka at mangingisda, ipagpapatuloy ng DA, ang Department of Agriculture, ang pamimigay ng 3,000 pesos na fuel subsidy sa ating mga magsasaka. Mahigit 26,000 magsasaka ang mabibigyan nito. Para naman po sa mga mangingisda, ang BIFAR ay magbibigay sa Huwebes, March 19, ng 3,000 pesos na fuel subsidy sa higit na 26,000 mangingisda. Sisikapin din ng Department of Agriculture na ipamahagi sa Abril sa bawat magsasaka at mangingisda ang lagpas 2,000 pisong tulong mula sa Presidential Assistance for Farmers and Fisherfolk Program. Magagamit po ito ng mga magsasaka sa kanilang hanap buhay. Sinisikap natin maprotektahan ang mamimili ng hindi nalulugi ang mga negosyante. Babawasan ng kaap ang singil sa passenger service charge, landing fee, parking fee at iba pang fee. Ito ay makakatulong para bumaba ang gastos ng mga airline at ang mga pamasahe sa eroplano. Samantala, pinaiikli naman ng Civil Aeronautics Board ang araw na pag-review ng fuel surcharge mula sa 1 buwan, 15 days na lang po. Mas mabilis na ma-adjust ang pamasahe kapag nagbago ang presyo ng jet fuel. Ibig sabihin, kapag tumaas ang presyo ng jet fuel, mas kontrolado ang pagtaas ng airfare. At kapag bumaba naman ang presyo ng jet fuel, mas mabilis ding bababa ang pamasahe. Sa lahat ng ahensya ng pamahalaan, repasuhin ang mga patakaran ukol sa lisensya, permit, clearance, certification. Tignan ninyo kung alin dito ang pwede munang suspindihin o di kaya ay babaan ang mga singil upang makabawas sa mga iniintindi ng taong bayan. Mga kababayan, ngayon, higit kailanman, kailangan natin ang pagtutulungan ng bawat isa. Walang iwanan, walang maiiwan sa pagharap natin sa hamong ito. Asahan ninyo ang patuloy namin paggawa ng mga hakbang upang maibsan ang mabigat na epekto ng kaganapan sa gitnang silangan sa taong bayan. Naway manatili ang ating tiwala sa isa't isa at ang pananampalataya na malagpasan din natin ang mga pagsubok. Dalangin natin ang kapayapaan at kaligtasan ng lahat.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday said the new Maktan Expo in Lapu-Lapu City is more than just a building. It's a major boost to the Philippines' ability to host big international events, including this year's Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN meetings. During the inauguration, the president said the convention center will help grow the country's meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions or MICE industry and give visitors a real taste of Cebu's warmth and culture. President Marcos explained that the government wants to follow the example of Indonesia, which successfully held ASEAN activities in new tourism hubs. Cebu, he said, was a natural choice because it already has the hotels, attractions, and infrastructure needed to welcome global delegates. The Maktan Expo is MegaWorld's first standalone convention center, built to handle large conferences while celebrating Cebuano identity. The chief executive also pointed out that projects like this show how government and the private sector can work together to speed up development. President Marcos added that improving tourism infrastructure across the country remains a priority so visitors have smoother, more memorable experiences.
Ay pinapalakas natin ang turismo sa Cebu dito sa pagbukas nitong Maktan Expo. Our tourism industry is now under a great deal of pressure dahil sa mga nangyayari. And last year we only welcomed 6 million people. Just to give you a frame of reference, Thailand welcomes 30 million tourists every year. Kaya malaking nakakabuli natin. But still, facilities such as this are an encouraging sign, and I am excited to explore more ways to elevate Philippine tourism. Of course, Cebu will always play a very, very large part in all our plans for tourism. And that you have made a name for yourselves around the world, and you are recognized as one of the favorite tourist destinations in the Philippines. Because travelers look for destinations that are easy to reach, equipped with facilities such as this. And of course, the beauty that the whole of the Philippines is able to offer.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Monday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the government is finally fixing a problem teachers have been dealing with for decades: the painfully slow promotion system in public schools. The president made the remark as he witnessed the oath-taking of more than 3,300 newly promoted teachers and school heads from across Cebu. The event is part of DepEd's expanded career progression or ECP system, which aims to promote 100,000 teachers this year. President Marcos said the reform was long overdue, noting that many teachers used to wait 10 to 20 years just to move up a few ranks. Some even left the classroom or the profession altogether because there were so few opportunities to advance. The new system changes that. Teachers can now choose between two career paths: staying in the classroom or moving into school leadership, and new ranks have been added to open more doors for promotion. Nearly 19,500 teachers nationwide have already benefited from the reform since last year. The chief executive thanked teachers for their dedication, calling their work a vocation and a sacred duty. He encouraged the newly promoted educators to continue shaping the future of Filipino learners and helping build a stronger education system.
It took 10 to 20 years for a teacher to progress from teacher 1 to teacher 3. Yung nakasama po natin, 30 taon nag-antay. Ang iba, decades, 3 decades. And another equally lengthy period to move from teacher 3 to master teacher 1. Because of this, many educators left and pursued administrative positions to receive higher compensation. At worst, they left the teaching profession altogether to find better opportunities elsewhere. And this aggravates the shortage that we have of teachers in the Philippines. So, to overcome these hurdles, we implemented the expanded career progression or ECP system for public school teachers. We have institutionalized this reform in September 2025. I did this by signing into law the Career Progression System for Public School Teachers and the School Leaders Act. Under this new system, this ECP system, the teachers now have two clear pathways for advancement: classroom teaching and school administration. Pinaghiwalay na natin yan. More importantly, it created many positions such as teacher 4 to 7, master teacher 5 to 6, and school principal 5, providing our teachers a clear career path and more opportunities. Through reclassification from August 2025 to February of 2026, we have successfully promoted nearly 19,500 teachers and school heads all over the country.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday led the distribution of 5,000 pesos in cash assistance to each tricycle driver beneficiary in Metro Manila as the government rolled out its fuel subsidy program aimed at easing the impact of rising oil prices. President Marcos oversaw the distribution of the financial aid at ASAC Covered Court in Santa Mesa to support public utility vehicle or PUV drivers affected by the continued increase in the prices of petroleum products amid the Middle East crisis. Speaking to reporters after the distribution, President Marcos said around 30,000 tricycle drivers received the fuel subsidies during the initial aid rollout. President Marcos said the assistance would first cover tricycle drivers, followed by jeepney drivers and Transport Network Vehicle Services or TNVS drivers.
Nandito lang po kami para tignan itong ginagawa natin, ito na nagsimula itong distribution. Alam naman ninyo ang nangyari, nagkagera sa Middle East, doon sa pinanggagalingan ng langis, nagtaasan ng presyo ng langis, tinamaan ngayon tayo, wala naman tayong kinalaman doon sa gera na yan. Pero siyempre, pagka tumaas yung langis, damay lahat. Kaya itong ginawa natin, nagsimula ngayon today, para sa lahat ng mga tinamaan, lalo na yung mga transport workers, kayo mga tricycle driver, pati yung lahat ng nagpapasada, lahat sa mga transport sector, ay bibigyan namin ng tulong para naman may kaunting pampahabol dun sa pagtaas ng presyo. Alam ko kailangan ninyo yan para kahit papaano meron pa rin kayong kinikita. Dahil pagka wala ito, napakahirap na masyado. Kaya siguro, nandito lang po kami para mag-inspeksyon at titiyakin lang namin na makapagbigay tayo. Kaya ito ay patuloy namin gagawin hanggang ganito pa ang sitwasyon. Kaya basta't nandito lang yung gobyerno para tulungan kayo.
The cash subsidies were sourced from the Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situation or IX program of the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD. The DSWD coordinated with the Department of Transportation and local government units to identify the beneficiaries. The DSWD earlier said distribution of aid would be conducted in 3 days to ensure the unhampered operations of tricycle drivers.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday sought closer cooperation with female lawmakers to advance women's rights and promote gender equality. During the oath-taking of the newly elected officers of the Association of Women Legislators Foundation, Incorporated, or AWLFI, of the 20th Congress, President Marcos acknowledged that Filipino women remain underrepresented in governance and the labor force. President Marcos noted that as of January 2026, the country suffered a drop to 86 from its 82nd worldwide ranking in December 2022 in terms of women serving in national parliaments. The president added that only 50.7% of women were part of the labor force, lower than the 74% participation rate among women. The chief executive added that women would receive capital assistance, skills training, and employment facilitation through the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD's Sustainable Livelihood Program. President Marcos stressed that collective efforts to advance the rights and welfare of women are contributing to national progress. President Marcos Jr. recognized the AWLFI's crucial role in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, citing the organization's composition of female leaders across all political affiliations.
Through your work, women and the youth gain support to develop their potential, pursue their dreams, and contribute meaningfully to society. The work before you continues to be vital and important, as it always has been. With this in mind, this administration has vowed to broaden opportunities for women, ensuring that you are heard, that you're respected, and that you are empowered in society. Our collective efforts to advance the rights and welfare of women are contributing to crucial progress. According to the Global Gap Report of the World Economic Forum, the Philippines improved its standing in gender parity from ranking 25th globally in 2024, and we are now 20th in 2025. For too many women and girls, the promise of opportunity remains distant. They are silenced by poverty, by violence, by traditions that deny women their rightful place. Yet we know this truth, that when women have a chance to learn, to work, and to lead, she does not rise alone because she lifts with her her family, her community, and that way her nation. Women must always be included in the halls where decisions are made, especially when those decisions affect women's lives. Therefore, we are talking about education for girls. We are talking about justice for women who are still seeking justice. We are talking about support.
The AWLFI is a nonpartisan organization composed of all women legislators in the House of Representatives working to advance the women's legislative agenda and lobbying for the passage of legislative initiatives to strengthen women's and children's welfare. These include the Magna Carta for Women, Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, and Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday ordered the Department of Transportation or DOTR to suspend the fare increases for public utility vehicles or PUVs that were set to take effect Thursday. In a video message, the president said it is not the right time to raise fares, stressing that Filipinos are already burdened by the economic impact of the Middle East crisis, including rising fuel and commodity prices. The directive came a day after the Land Transportation and Franchising Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, announced fare hikes ranging from 1 peso to 40 pesos across all land transport modes. President Marcos said commuters, especially workers and students, cannot afford additional costs, while assuring PUV drivers that government support programs are in place to help them cope with current challenges. The president also ordered the DOTR to roll out nationwide free rides and implement fare discounts for Metro Rail Transit or MRT and Light Rail Transit or LRT passengers. He further directed agencies to provide toll fee discounts to ease expenses for motorists. President Marcos emphasized that government efforts continue to cushion the impact of the ongoing conflict on the daily lives of Filipinos.
Sa aking palagay, dahil nga may problema pa rin tayo dahil sa gera sa Middle East, ay sabi ko siguro hindi ito ang panahon para magtaas ng pamasahe para sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya tinutos ko sa DOTR na suspindihin muna ang fare hike at i-defer muna natin yan, i-postpone muna natin yan dahil nasa gitna ngayon tayo nitong sitwasyon na ito na kailangan patuloy ang ating pag-alalay sa ating mga commuter, sa lahat ng mga ating manggagawa, mga estudyante, lahat ng gumagamit ng ating transport system. Huwag po mag-alala ang ating mga transport workers dahil mamadaliin po namin, dadagdagan po namin ang suporta sa inyo para naman ay hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Ang DOTR ay pinutusan ko na sisimula na ang libreng sakay sa buong Pilipinas. At pwede po ninyong gamitin na muna yan para pangbawas gastos sa pang-araw-araw. At sa MRT at LRT ay magdidiskwento po tayo doon sa pamasahe. Bukod pa doon, sa mga toll road ay meron din tayong inutos na diskwento para mas maliit na ngayon ang bayad ng taong bayan sa paggamit ng mga toll road. Alahanin niyo po ninyo ang inyong pamahalaan ay laging nandito. Lagi kaming nag-iisip ng panibagong paraan upang matiyak na ang inyong pamumuhay ay normal, maayos at ligtas.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Wednesday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the possible suspension of excise tax on oil products would depend on global price movements amid uncertainties stemming from tensions in the Middle East. The president, in a media interview in San Juan City, said the government is carefully studying the situation before deciding on any intervention. President Marcos noted that exercising the power to suspend excise tax requires a thorough assessment of multiple factors. The chief executive said global developments play a significant role in determining domestic fuel prices, adding that uncertainties in the duration and impact of the ongoing conflict in the Gulf region make it difficult to predict price movements. President Marcos said the government is closely monitoring key global supply routes, including major oil transit points that could influence supply and pricing. The president noted that to date, there is no immediate cause for alarm since the supply of petroleum products remains stable.
Oh, that depends. Marami, that's a very complicated calculation. We will see. Depends on the trends. You have to watch the trends of on oil prices. We just have to look. It's very hard to say because it's all speculation. We don't know how long this will last for. We don't know what the effects are. We don't know what will happen in the Straits of Hormuz. So right now we are just adjusting to the situation, and when the situation calls for it, then we will see like when to exercise the power and how much by. But right now we don't have a problem as a supply with food. We don't have a problem sa supply with petroleum products, including fertilizer for the farmer. So that's our main concern. So so far we've been able to keep everything at normal levels. Everything is normal. No need to hoard. Now our vendors are cooperating, and they are keeping the prices down at normal from what they were maybe a month ago. Pareho pa rin. So that's what we need to.
The House of Representatives and the Senate have both approved bills granting the President authority to suspend or reduce the excise tax on petroleum products to mitigate the impact of rising crude oil prices. The Senate version allows for the suspension or reduction of the excise tax on fuel when the average price of Dubai crude oil reaches or exceeds $80 per barrel for 1 month, while the House version requires the President to declare a state of national emergency to justify the suspension or reduction.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on Wednesday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said there's no need for hoarding despite uncertainties caused by ongoing tensions in the Middle East, assuring the public that the country's food supply remains sufficient. Speaking to reporters after inspecting Agora Market in San Juan City, President Marcos said the government continues to monitor the situation to ensure that supply and prices of basic commodities remain stable. President Marcos said concerned agencies have been visiting public markets to check on the prices of goods and ensure that vendors comply with government guidelines. President Marcos noted that price caps and suggested retail prices are being followed in many markets. The President added that the Department of Agriculture continued to ensure adequate supply of key commodities. President Marcos said everything is normal, promising that the government would continue to monitor the situation closely to ensure that it remains manageable amid the crisis. The chief executive expressed confidence that cooperation among stakeholders would help the country overcome current challenges.
Nagpapasalamat din kami sa mga bento dahil ay pumayag naman sila na hindi tataas ang presyo at hindi sila mag-price gouging at hindi sila magsasamantala dito sa krisis na nangyayari sa Middle East. Kaya't ay patuloy naman ang pag-inspeksyon natin para tiyakin na ang hindi lamang ang food supply kundi ang presyo ng pagkain ay at the very least ay makikita natin na ma-maintain lang natin sa dating level. Titignan natin tuloy-tuloy pa ito dahil hindi natin malaman gaano katagal ang gera na nasa Iran, nasa Middle East, kaya patuloy ang ating pag-inspeksyon para naman ang kabuhayan ng ating mga kababayan ay hindi masyadong maapektuhan nitong krisis na hinaharap natin sa
sa Middle East. At dito lang sa Pilipinas, normal lang muna ang ating mga presyuhan at tinitiyak nga natin kahit hindi ang supply natin, maganda naman ang supply natin ng pagkain, ng bigas, lahat ng mga basic goods. Kaya yung ating mga kababayan, sinasabi natin, hindi naman kailangan pag-holding at hindi tayo nagkukulang sa food supply. Ito ang pagpunta namin dito para tiyakin na ang presyo na ating ibinigay sa ating mga market vendor ay talagang sinusundan. At sa nakikita naman namin, ay sinusundan naman ang mga price cap na nilalagay ng DTI. Everything is normal and we'll just keep working to make sure that it stays that way. Para naman kabuhayan na ating mga kababayan ay hindi paapektuhan.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday assured the public that his administration is working to cushion the impact of rising global oil prices, emphasizing ongoing efforts to secure stable fuel and food supplies for Filipino families. Speaking to reporters in Mariveles, Bataan Province, the president acknowledged the volatility of the international oil market, saying the government is continuously adjusting its strategies and exploring ways to expand subsidies for affected sectors. Despite global pressures, the president stressed that the country's current stocks of oil and essential goods remain sufficient. He said agencies are focused on keeping prices steady and bringing down the cost of basic commodities. President Marcos also highlighted efforts to find alternative fuel sources to reduce dependence on Middle Eastern suppliers and ensure a steady flow of energy into the country. The president noted that support for transport workers continues, including subsidies meant to offset the deferred fare increases, especially with the Holy Week travel rush approaching. Protecting livelihoods, he said, remains a top priority. President Marcos added that the government is accelerating its interventions in response to the ongoing oil crisis.
The problem is masyadong malikot ang presyo ng langis, hindi natin ma-anticipate. So we are still adjusting right now, but I think so far, kahit papaano, we will be able to soften the blow. Ika nga, basta we want to keep as much as possible, wag po mag-alala ang tao. We are securing the supplies of oil, we are securing the supplies of food, and so far, sapat naman ang ating mga supply, ang ating mga naka-stock na sa langis at saka sa pagkain. Kaya ang binabantayan na lang natin ngayon ang presyuhan. Dahil sa pagkain, mas marami tayong magagawa. Pwede natin, naghahanap kami ng paraan pa para ibaba ang presyo ng pagkain. Yung langis, wala tayong magagawa dyan. Pero at least yung supply ay tinitiyak namin magkakaroon. So kahit na may stock tayo, patuloy ang maghanap ng Pilipinas dahil kumukuha talaga tayo sa Middle East. So naghahanap tayo ng alternative sources ng langis. And so halimbawa sa fertilizer, yun na petroleum product na yun, hindi problema yun dahil yung pinagkukuhanan natin na kapag nangako naman sa atin na itutuloy nila yung kanilang mga kontrata. So we are adjusting well, and we want to, ang talagang habol namin dito is to keep yung hanap buhay ng tao, na meron sila pa ring hanap buhay, and the only way to do that is kung hindi natin, halimbawa yung mga transport workers, kahit na hindi itataas ang fare sa ngayon, deferred lang muna yung fare hike, dadagdagan naman natin ang tulong sa kanila para hindi naman sila malugi.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.